And today we're talking about chaos in the form of a film. And not just any film, Wes Anderson's own The French Dispatch. Yeah, so sit back, relax, and let's talk about it. This is how we do it! Yeah, come on. Hey. Anyways, I'm just playing. Anyways. So, the movie, let's get down to it. It's basically an anthology film taking place in a fictional town in France, talking about a fictional magazine company where you have American writers talking about their stories. So the opening scene shows you about the company and the editor-in-chief, who's played by Billmurray. Then you have an opening narration about the town and its people, which is narrated by a journalist and writer played by Owen Wilson. After that, you have the three-part anthology. The first part of the anthology talks about a troubled artist played by none other than Benicio del Toro, titled The Concrete Masterpiece, where you have Tilda Swinton, who's playing the journalist who talks about the artist, his muse, played by Léa Seydoux, and the man who takes an interest in the troubled artist for both artistic and financial purposes, played by Adrien Brody. Here we see the artist's life, his creativity, his imprisonment, his mental health issues, his rise to prominence, his love, his rejection, his regrets, all of which finally allows him to create his final masterpiece. So in fact, we go through a wave of emotions up in here. Then we have part 2, which talks about a rebellious youth movement, titled Revisions of the Manifesto. Here we have a journalist, played by Frances McDormand, by the way, talking about the youth and how they're going against certain rules by the school and then later on certain rules by the government during wartime. So here we have a comical Che Guevara-ish vibe going on, which is fairly amusing. You have Timothée Chalamet and Lena Kudry playing the youngins of the movement. At least they help lead the movement, so to speak. Christoph Waltz even makes a cameo. And then we have part 3, which is basically a food blog turned crime story titled The Dining Room of the Police Commissioner. Here you have the journalist, played by Jeffrey Wright, talking about a legendary chef, played by Steve Park, making food for the police commissioner, played by Matthew Mulreek, and of course the rest of the officers and the prisoners as well. The journalist also gives a little insight about his own history and how he, came about working for Bill Murray's character and this magazine. So while he's here, all of them get entangled into a crime scenario where the police commissioner's son is kidnapped, and then they have to go to great lengths to get him back. It's like comical, it's beautiful, there's a whole bunch of things going on. And you have cameos from Saoirse Ronan, Edward Norton, and William Dafoe. And then finally, you have an outro where you have all the journalists come together to finish the last issue of the magazine. Now there's a whole bunch of other things that I'm leaving out because you need to watch this film. Okay, because this is not just any ordinary Wes Anderson film. Trust me when I say this, this is the most Wes Anderson-iest film you will ever see. Believe that. This man done pulled out all the stops. See, normally I don't like anthology films. I find them a little boring, in a little out of place. They don't connect together, all of that. But this one, the chaotic nature of this one had me glued to the screen from start to finish. Boy, it was cray-cray. Because you had amazing acting with an ensemble cast. Ensemble cast. Got me so excited, I forgot how to say the words. Anyways. You had cinematography, which was brilliant. Set design, costume design, all of it came together to form like a painting in every frame. You know what I'm saying? And then you had colors, contrast flooded all over the place, man. This was surrealistic expressionism on steroids, son. No, I'm just playing. Anyway, and then you had switches. You had switches in the frame. You had color representing the present. You had black and white representing the past. And even at the third part of the anthology, where you had the food blog turned crime story. You had a chase scene which was fully animated that gave you an old school Scooby-Doo-esque vibe up in here. Like, man, this boy was crazy as... I mean, even the music and the background score was amazing. Like, everything from the blinking of the eyes, to the movement, the turning of the head, to the walking, to the sitting, all of it, added another layer to the music itself. Sometimes, so much so that it even acted like its own instrument sometimes, you know what I mean? I mean, every time Alexander Desplat and Wes Anderson come together, magic happens. All of these things adds to the major fact of this movie. The major attracting point of the movie is the comedy, man. The acting, the movements, the pacing, the dialogue, the frames, all of it put together adds to the hilarity of things. Chaotic satire, if you will. It was beautiful and hilarious at the same time, you know what I'm talking about, huh? Now, bringing you to my favorite scene of the movie. My favorite scene from the film is in the first part of the anthology, the concrete masterpiece, where towards the end, where you have... So, Benicio del Toro's character is finally revealing his final masterpiece, which he's technically forced to work on, but he finally gets it done after a long-awaited time. You know, but here you have Adrien Brody's character who bribes the prison guards, who allows him and other art enthusiasts and journalists all to come and see this man's great final work. And then they see it and a few things happen, but at the end of it, even the prison guards, even the prisoners want to be bribed because they come to hear about all of these things. And then Adrien Brody is like, no, I didn't bring enough money for all of them. But then as he looks out the door, he sees all of them waiting with weapons in hand, ready to charge. And then he's like, oh shit, what do we do? And they're like, just close the door. And then he closes the door, but then they break through with weapons in hand and they're all fighting. It's all chaotic. But the thing is, this particular scene where they're fighting, you have the prisoners, you have the prison guards, you have the journalists, the art enthusiasts, all of them in a chaotic battle, almost like a dance. All of them in a mannequin challenge, all still framed. Everyone's just like, just like, you know what I'm saying, just still framed throughout with Benicio del Toro's character, his final masterpiece in the background, and then you have the camera panning from right to left, showing you, scanning the whole scenario, and then you have music playing as well. It's almost operatic, if you know what I mean. It was funny. That was my favorite scene from the film. Now there are three main takeaways from this film. The first one is that it's all nicely packed and presented in a beautiful poetic ode to journalism. In fact, the movie was inspired by the New Yorker magazine, and many of the characters are based off of real-life journalists from that magazine. It's a romanticized version of the life of a journalist and how they bring their stories to life, essentially. And the second takeaway is something that Bill Murray's character says throughout the film. Try to make it seem that you wrote it that way on purpose. Now, I feel like this is the approach Wes Anderson had when it came to making this film, or most of his works, in fact. I feel like many times a creation can come off as strange or weird or insane, but if indeed that was the intention, that is when you call it art. You know what I mean? And the third and final takeaway is the idea of the lonely creator. Now, if you are creating a business, or you're making art, or doing a science experiment, or making a write-up, whatever it is, sometimes creating can be a very lonely process. all right? And this is prevalent throughout the movie. If you take the first part of the anthology, you have the troubled artist who, as he grows in his work and his life, he goes more and more into solitude, and it manifests physically when he gets imprisoned and is pushed even more into solitude. And then he tries to profess his love to his muse in the prison, and he's instantly rejected, sending him into another lonely spiral. But throughout that process, the more lonely he became, the crazier and more amazing his artwork became, which was insane. And then you have part 2 of the anthology, where you have Frances McDormand's character. She, as a journalist, chooses a life of solitude, to be alone. She chooses that life because she finds it to be more, she finds it to be able to write more and invest more in her life and in her work and in her way of living. So much so, when her close ones try to hook her up with Christoph Waltz's character, she avoids that whole scenario completely. And then you have part 3, where you have the journalist Jeffrey Wright, played by Jeffrey Wright, and his character is lonely as well, as he gives a little insight about his past, where he talks about the fact that he is a gay black man who's also an immigrant, and his whole experience into coming into the country and getting into his field of expertise, all of it was quite a lonely journey. So this theme of the lonely creator plays out throughout the film, which is quite amusing. Now, this is for all artists. Now, doing something creating something beautiful is a daunting process and a lonely experience. But at the end of it all, the masterpiece speaks for itself. So all of this brings me back to my point of chaos. Why am I even talking about chaos? Because, well, chaos is what created the universe. Chaos is where beauty comes from. And chaos is where the best stories are ever told. Alright? You need to dive into the deep end, jump into that jumble of mixture of craziness, and then you will find who you are, what you're looking for, your purpose in life, the whole shebang, like the Big Bang. Create your own damn universe. That's how it is. I feel like that's how Wes Anderson went into this film, and that's what makes this film beautiful. Is the chaotic nature of it is what brought everything together and made it fun to watch for me. That's why I'm talking about chaos, because it's important for everybody to embrace chaos and to understand what it is and to feel it, and then to make something out of it. From one artist to all the other creators out there, embrace the embrace the chaos, my friend, because not everybody is going to understand you in your journey, but those who do will truly appreciate it. Just like this film. Now, this could have been a regular Hollywood film and it still would have been successful, but it wouldn't have been this film. It wouldn't have been a Wes Anderson film, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, so that's how it is. Yeah. Anyways, that's all the time we have for y'all today. I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope you liked the movie. Watch it. Let me know what you think about everything down in the comments below. This is YouTube, so you know how it is. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon, because we finna make more and more of these videos. So until next time, I'll see y'all beautiful people around. Cha-cha!